a star that lights the road. I take this ride. Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it to the light. I take it to the edge where I live 1,000 lives. But maybe I could be the one right into the setting sun tonight. Just drive.
Oh, there you are, Pete. Hello. Welcome to the Notebook for day 3. It's a very good viewing area there. I wonder if I can actually pay for these seats. You've got a good view of some Armco. Someone's left a can of tuna in this tyre barrier. I don't know, it must have been a nice lunch, but they just sort of tossed the can of tuna there. But hooray, we have some cars on track. So we've just had the Marussia come round. Come in, Pete, have a look. And we've got Jensen, we haven't got Kevin Magnussen in the McLaren. That's the Hulk, Nico Hulkenberg in the Force India. And Max Chilton, as I say, having a look at the Marussia. So this is great. We've been waiting pretty much all day for this. So, but I want to take you into the grandstand just to A, show you around behind the scenes a bit, and B, get the views of some fans on the noise and the sound, just to give you some of the idea of the geography. This is the back of the paddock. You can see the back of the Ferrari motorhome there, and the back of the McLaren and the Caterham little motorhome on here as well. And one of the nice features of the Jerez paddock is then you've got a grandstand quite close to the back of it, which is with its own bar pit stop for the people here to come and be entertained, get some lunch and some drinks throughout the day. When it gets to the end of the day, like we are now, they have had a few, I can tell you that, but let's show my pass to the hombre here. Gracias. Hi. Did you say hi? Oh. So yeah, terrible day for Red Bull. Terrible test for Red Bull. Let's do that now. It seems to be that they've got a packaging problem. Who would have thought Adrian Newey with over-enthusiastically tight packaging? That's not a fanar. That's just, it seems that he's packaged everything very close together and it's overheated. They're not being quite clear about who it is, whose fault it is, whether it's Renault's fault or whether it's their fault for their tight packaging, or whether it's it's not the battery, because the battery is packaged the same as everybody. If you saw yesterday, it's the mandated packaging underneath a fuel tank. It seems to be then their control systems, transformers that go from alternating current to direct current, AC to DC, as we were explaining yesterday, of course get very hot, and then the control systems and everything with that seems to be overheating. We don't know where those control systems within the battery, the energy store is. We don't know where Newey's put it, why then if therefore it is overheating. But anyway, it does seem to be. There's a gentleman over here who was just shouting from the grandstand, say hello. I just want to get his view. Hello, my friend, come here. How are you? Nice to meet you.
All right, nice to meet you.
What do you think of the sound?
Absolutely amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But you heard the V8s?
It's a bit, well, they're louder. The
V8s were louder, yeah.
Yeah, this is nice. I like the Ferrari sound, especially the hissing sound afterwards.
So you're the first person in the grandstand I've found who actually likes them. Most people hate it.
I love it. At least you don't need your earmuffs.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Don't need this anymore.
Okay. All right, well, listen, thanks for your input. What's your name, sorry?
Jerry.
Jerry, thank you very much.
Nice.
I'm going to go and get I'll tell you, Jerry, you're the only person who's liked the sound so far. So I want to get some other, and that's good to hear, because I've had some views from other fans. I mean, at Hulkenberg, he's not exactly on flat chat, but anyway, who are saying that, you know, we like to hear the noise come through our bodies and actually sort of feel what it's like. Now, you speak English? Yeah. Good. Oh, right. Good. Thank God for that. Don't swear or anything, because we're live. Well, we're not live, but we're pretty much live. Watch the beer. Yeah, I've already referred to that. Was that you who had that accident in the tunnel down there?
No.
Oh, it's all right, never mind. Right, what do you think of, it's the noise I'm after, the sound. What do you think? What are your views?
You can hear the difference between the Ferrari and the Mercedes.
Yes, that's because the Ferrari has a wider bore exhaust,
Oh,
apparently.
right, okay. And it was interesting with the
More
Toro
on Development
Rosso.
Corner about that tomorrow, by the way.
Isn't the Toro Rosso running the Renault engine?
Yes.
Or was?
No, it is now.
Well, it was, and then it blew up. But it is interesting that you can hear the difference in the engine, which we were at Spa last year, and
Yep.
you couldn't hear between the V8s. We couldn't hear the difference.
Yes. Okay, I know, but more broader brushstroke. Do you miss the fact that the V8s, were ear splitting, or do you think this is
top end? It's that screaming top end that you miss. I think that's the biggest difference. I
We
think.
can't tell if they're actually going flat or if they're short shifting. We don't know whether they're
Right.
like using the whole rev range, because it might just sound like that. It's hard to tell.
Okay, I think that it's pretty safe to say that it's been such a crazy test. None of them are going to the top of the
Yeah.
rev range, but they will later. Okay, but you don't think that for the fan, the absence of that V8 howl is going to detract from the F1 experience, then, gents?
A little bit, yeah. They're still sounding good, but not as good as they used to.
And anything else? We did a piece on the engines yesterday, and the what they call the power units, the motor generator units, and the energy recovery systems. And my producer Felix said that he didn't understand. He's not here, but he was taking the piece in London. He said he didn't understand some of the things that we were talking about, which distressed me somewhat. So for Felix's benefit, and maybe for everybody else's, was there any questions that you have that maybe? I know maybe you didn't watch the thing yesterday, but people have been asking, say, for example, with the KERS, whether there's still a boost button.
Yeah.
And you understand that actually now it's all integrated. There isn't a KERS boost
really?
button.
Oh, all right. We didn't know that.
Okay, all right, sorry. Well, that was a question I'd had that I wanted to answer. Someone said, "Is there still a KERS boost button?" Of course, now otherwise they'd be pressing it constantly. You can use it for 33 seconds around a lap. It's all integrated into the accelerator pedal. So sorry, that's another thing I didn't make clear yesterday. But anything else you were wondering about?
I was curious about the Lotus with the two-pronged nose cone. Does that have any benefit depending on kind of like the anti-clockwise or clockwise circuits? Or I mean, why with the two-pronged nose cone compared to everybody else?
Okay, well, we're talking about nose cones in part 2 of this notebook. So we're doing this bit here, then we're going to go away for 2 minutes, a couple of minutes for a break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk more about nose cones then. What it is they're one is only slightly ahead of, but the reason it's only slightly ahead of the other one is for legality. The one that's ahead counts as the nose. The other one is more or less a dummy, just to satisfy the rules. Sorry.
Is there any aerodynamic advantage with the slightly elongated split nose cone compared to everybody else?
Yeah, I mean the advantage is that it's not the elongated, it's just having the Lotus think it's an advantage having a split one to allow air underneath it. And I think some other teams are looking at it. I think it's a nice idea. But yeah, anything else? But about the engines
Yeah,
and
there was one thing.
this is like hashtag Ask Crofty, isn't it? By the way, Crofty is going to be doing Ask Crofty at the next test in Bahrain. It's Crofty's turn in Bahrain, and then I'm back for Test 3 in Bahrain. So get your questions ready for hashtag Ask Crofty in Bahrain 2 weeks. Sorry. Go on.
There was one thing. So it does sound sometimes like they're almost running on 3 cylinders.
Yes, you can do that. So that was another thing we did yesterday. Clearly, that I didn't make clear
We didn't watch
you
it,
can they can cut the cylinders
All right.
according to as they used to
For fuel or fuel saving? Or?
for fuel and drivability. Yeah.
So on the overrun, when they're decelerating, it almost sounds like they're running some kind of anti-lag system. Is that, have they got anti-lag? Or?
On deceleration and braking, that would be spinning up the MGUK, spinning up the energy recovery system that's attached to the engine through a crankshaft to generate electricity, which they're then going to use elsewhere around the lap. Okay, I think our job is we still have to explain all of this. I'm not saying, I mean, you're clearly very well informed, but it seems like Felix wasn't the only one who was slightly confused by all the changes, so we will be explaining more of it. Gentlemen, thank you. Can I have all your names, please?
True.
Malcolm.
Richard.
And Ewan.
Ewan, brilliant. Okay, listen, thank you so much for your input. I do value it, and it's just interesting to get a quite well-informed, actually, view, despite the empty bottles of beer that they had underneath them, as to what's going on. So I've told you about Red Bull's problems in the energy store, the battery control unit's getting hot, it's overheating, it's a new installation issue. Very aggressive, of course, with his installation, always always is, and Helmut Marko talking about how it's their problem to fix, but Adrian Newey and Christian Horner have flown back to Milton Keynes this very afternoon, and are going to try and Newey, of course, is going to work on a design to fix the problem. I think they're going to stay. They are going to stay. They didn't run. They only did 3 laps today. They are going to stay. Look at that, Pete. All the cars have gone in. You see, you can't pick a time when there are a load of cars on track. They are going to, of course, try and run tomorrow if the mechanics can try and open up some of the cooling, and hopefully maybe allow Ricciardo to do 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 maybe, hopefully, laps to learn something. I don't think there's any point, as far as I can tell from Red Bull, of them just packing up to get one more day shipping the car back to Milton Keynes. They have got 2 weeks, or rather 1.5 weeks, before they have to get the car to the next test in Bahrain, so they might as well just stop and see if they can get one more day. I think if this had all happened on the first day, then maybe they would have packed up early, but really it's a very difficult test for Red Bull, but they've clearly got nothing to prove to anybody, being champions for the last 4 years, so they will bounce back. Let me tell you quickly at the end of this, to finish out this part, on the brake-by-wire. Now this is very interesting. There's now the braking goes through electronics. It's really a system to help the kinetic energy recovery system, the KERS, attached to the rear wheels, which is what we call the TERS rather than the H. I'm just going to silence my phone because somebody is calling me, and it's very unprofessional of me. It's been going off. I should have silenced it earlier. It's Craig Slater arranging whether I'm going to do some interviews. But yeah, interesting brake-by-wire system. The brake is still attached hydraulically, so there's still a hydraulic link between the brake pedal and the front brakes. It's that the rear brakes, now there's no physical link between the brake pedal and the rear brakes. So demand goes for rear braking into an electronic control unit, and then that goes to the physical brake calipers on the rear brakes, and that decides how much to brake the rear wheels with the calipers and how much to use engine braking, which of course spins up the KERS, the MGUK, and brake the car in that fashion. It's more of a sort of integrated way, and it means that the whole brake bias is electronically controlled through an ECU rather than the driver messing around with brake biases. Now this is Craig Slater calling me on my other phone. Craig, I'll be with you in a second, sorry. And so I better go and find Craig. But yeah, so that's the brake-by-wire, very interesting system which all the cars have, but not entirely by wire, because there is at least still that link between the pedal, hydraulically speaking, and the front brakes. Right, we're going to reposition. Join us in a couple of minutes for more Notebook. Welcome back to the Notebook. Right, we're going to talk noses now, and finding out why some of the different noses, either the pencil noses or the dolphin noses or the flat noses like the Ferrari and the Mercedes, are the way they are. Joined by Caterham Technical Director Mark Smith. Thanks for coming and talking to us, especially as your nose is one of the more sort of, let's call it, interesting out there. The car's out, so we can't have a look at it, but I'm just going to sort of demonstrate using what is effectively my afternoon tea snacks of some sorts, pack of sultanas and a banana, what it looks like. And if you just hold the mic for a second and explain why it looks like that.
Okay, well we've had a regulation change for this season.
Like you've got, isn't it? You've got...
It's along those lines as a theme, right. Yes. We've had a regulation change that's been driven by reducing the height of the impact structure to be more beneficial in certain types of impact, particularly side impacts. The noses that we've had for a number of years now have been very high in terms of where they would strike another car, particularly from the side. Okay. So the regulations have changed. We now have a reduced nose tip for the structural nose, but the interesting thing about the regulations is that there is a slight difference between the structural envelope and the non-structural envelope. So we've effectively met the regulations in terms of satisfying the impact tests, but we're trying to hold on to some of the aerodynamic philosophy that we've had with respect to our nose by trying to retain some of the feature there with the fairing. So what we're trying to use this for is to direct air as it goes downstream on the car to the front of the floor and the devices around the front of the floor that respond to that airflow.
So I understand. So both for crash testing, because presumably when the crash test comes in,
Yes.
it immediately breaks off that bit. But then this is the part that passes the crash test for you.
Well, this is actually the structural part.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
It is, and that's the bit that's been brought down by regulation so that it's not too high. This progressively absorbs energy under impact. The fairing, that I'll refer to it as a fairing, the bit on top is a very lightweight fairing. It does absolutely nothing in the impact test. It's totally, it's there as a passenger. So that's the bit that is just giving us our aerodynamic surface that we want to work with.
Okay, right. So the rule makers have tried to lower the nose to stop T-boning accidents potentially, and there's another whole discussion to be had as to whether what we've got now with the low nose is actually worse in terms of people going underneath.
Yes.
Cars,
Yeah.
but that's a different discussion for a different day. But the aerodynamicists want to keep the nose as high as possible to get good airflow, as Mark was just saying, around the back of the car. Okay, so why do you think then we've seen you've gone with this one? Toro Rosso and Force India's just looks straight like that, really, doesn't it? But with a bit further back. What's their thinking on that?
Well, I think ultimately they will be trying to achieve the same thing. It's about the control of the airflow as it goes down past the nose, the wake of the front wing, and travels rearwards on the car. Now, there are, as ever, there's more than one way of achieving a result. In fact, the nose that we have is not actually the nose that we started working with when we were originally looking at the 2014 car. And in fact, we've also got another solution, probably more than one solution, that we're looking at in CFD, and we have been for a few weeks now. We're also interested in seeing what other people have come up with. So yes, we've noted the designs that you've referred to, and I think at the moment, probably for every team, options are open in terms of potential development.
Okay, but then there's a conceptual difference between the banana noses, or whatever we want to call them, and what Ferrari and Mercedes have gone with a much sort of lower, flatter section. I don't really have a prop to demonstrate it. I suppose the same pack of Sultanas would kind of do it. But what are they doing? Are they actually getting front downforce off that nose section itself?
I don't. First of all, it's not a solution that we've particularly looked at. So I can't comment with too much authority. I don't think the suggestion you've just made will be a significant factor in that, no.
Is it more about maybe creating a low pressure area underneath?
It will be about what's happening underneath it more so, yeah.
But it would create, that low nose would create a low pressure area, and maybe are they thinking more about front downforce, and how much is it a trade-off between then channeling the air to the rear of the car?
Well, they'll still be looking at achieving a car balance aerodynamically, which has to sit with the weight distribution limitations that we all work to. So I don't think there's anything fundamental in terms of the target they're trying to hit. It's just a completely different way of trying to get to that target. The mechanisms of the flow structures that work off that type of wing, we haven't really looked at yet, so I'm sure we will.
All right, we're going to talk about the Lotus one in just a second. I just want to know why they sort of look like bananas at the end, because isn't there a rule that says that there's a 10 centimetre squared section that needs to be at the front, but then everybody has kind of tapered them down into a... There's a regulation that states that a certain distance back from the tip of the nose you have to have a certain minimum area, so that's what they've had to achieve there. Yeah. And you have as well?
Everybody has to do that by regulation, yes. So you can achieve that with either a single structure or with the twin structure. One of those can achieve it. It can only be one, because as you take a section across the width of the car, you can only have one open section within the nose structure.
Okay, because you're referring to what we were saying about the Lotus. So you haven't seen it yet because they haven't actually brought it out. But if I just exaggerate the Lotus nose slightly, they've got two bits that come down, but one is slightly...
One leads the other,
other. So actually this is the legality bit.
Yes.
This is parting, the one that's the leading bit, that's passing the test.
Yes, correct.
Legal. But then they put another one in and created an airflow in the middle. Do you like that idea?
It's an interesting idea. Yes,
Right.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
And they wouldn't have any problem with the crash test there because you've got both of them acting, or would that be non-structural?
No, again, they will have satisfied the regulations because they have to do the impact test, but also satisfy the wording of the regulations. Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't it add a bit of weight in the front? Having two of these things?
There is potential for some additional weight, simply because it's probably a more demanding structure to get through the impact test.
Okay. All right. So we will look forward to seeing the Lotus Double Banana, if you want to call it that, nose when it debuts in Bahrain. But for now, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So there you go. The noses, I thought that was quite interesting. Nose is kept high for the aerodynamicists because that's how you get the best aerodynamic performance, but low to please the FIA who want to lower the tips of the nose so you don't get T-boning accidents. So you join us now for the final part, and as you can see, 5 p.m, end of the day, checkered flag is out, and we're just going to go through most of the teams. Who should we start with? Caterham haven't had a brilliant day, only a handful of laps for Robin Frins, or Frigens, or Frines. 10 laps for him. They had some problems getting him out again. He's a prospect they think is very hot for the future. They wouldn't be at all surprised if he replaces either Kobayashi or Ericsson next year. Look at that, we're already talking about next year. But they've had another slightly troubled day. Then there's McLaren, whose Kevin Magnussen has really starred. He's done a brilliant job to do a very, very fast lap. Fastest pretty much of the day, but is this the Ferrari? Right, this is amazing sound. When the Ferrari comes in, get it, Pete, you get the car coming in and I'll get the sound as it powers down. What's that? Well, his mechanic's looking at me like I'm doing some industrial espionage. I mean, of course, it's the Kers and the Turs all winding down, and the turbo running down as well. So amazing, that sound when they come into the pits. Hope you could hear it there. Is Fernando going to come out and give the very small but select crowd in the grandstand a little wave, because they've been shouting Alonso all day? No, he's not. The garage goes down, but now we're going to have a little practice McLaren pit stop. Pete, this is worth watching and trying not to get run over. If you go and stand by that next to that geezer in the blue fire suit, then you can watch this. I'm just going to step back a little bit so I don't get run over. That would be a good start to the year, wouldn't it? Getting run over in a testing pit lane. So yeah, I was saying how impressed I was by Kevin Magnussen here, coming in and on the medium tyres, as you can see. Nice pit stop practice from McLaren. He can burn a little bit of rubber and go in. Of course, if that was a race weekend, then he'd get a big penalty for that, because you're not allowed to burn rubber and then just stop in the box, but he has to stop because the session is over. But I know we can't look anything into lap times, not least because the teams aren't running the cars at top revs, not running them anywhere near 15,000 RPM. But I just thought it was a good effort for Magnussen's first day in the car to go and put in a quick lap time. And as the ubiquitous screens come through, that's Joe Ramirez just next to you. Nice to see him there. Then old Kevin Magnussen goes and puts in a fast time, but McLaren making good progress today. Done Caterham, Ferrari, you will have hopefully already heard about in the programme before us. Craig's going to talk to Fernando, but they had another good day. Lots of laps for them, despite an early breakdown. Mercedes, I'm just hopefully about to talk to Lewis Hamilton, so let's see how their day went. Force India, Nico Hulkenberg had some fuel pickup problems. Small stuff, but they're making progress of a kind. This is good, because A, we haven't missed him, and B, it's not too busy. I think all the crowds are actually at Red Bull and Ferrari for Alonso. Because of course Red Bull is the story today, as we've already said. Hello, James. Hello. Red Bull is the story today. Another nightmare day for them, really, with all the problems that we've already told you about. So while we wait for Lewis, Pete, you come around the other shoulder. You can see we've got Brazilian TV here, and then there's Fleet Street and specialist websites like Adam Cooper on the end there, and Ian Parks in the natty shades from the Press Association. So nice to see them all here. Jenson Button did do 40 laps actually, talking of McLaren in the morning. Fernando Alonso has spoken about. Magnussen. It's only a matter of time before I call him Jan Magnussen. I know I'm going to do it at some point. Marussia, with their trucks over here. A good day. They had some coding problems, some software problems, which meant that they couldn't spark up and actually give the car its debut for quite a while. But once they got that sorted out, they actually managed to run a few laps for Max Chilton. Max, we managed to get a word with him. He said the car was great when it ran. It was fantastic. So just checking the time. It was a good start for Marussia. Just a thought on Red Bull. They've only done 14 laps more than Lotus as it goes into potentially the end of this test, and Lotus haven't even been, and Lotus then have had much more time to develop their car and design and get it finished. So maybe Lotus might not have missed out too much. Of course they have. I know what you're saying. Lotus is still going to come to Bahrain and could have the same kind of problems, installation problems, etc., that everybody else is having. Felipe Massa, a good day, 39 or 40 laps plus in the Williams, and is adapting very well to them. I'm just seeing if the little text that we get from Mercedes has come through to show us where Felipe Massa ended up time-wise. I think he's second or third. But some good performance and some good laps in the Williams. Nico Hülkenberg just told you about. Jean-Eric Verne, they were running doing some aero work, doing some Flowbiz paint on the front wing. Seems like they're getting somewhere with the problems in the batteries. So here comes Lewis, Pete. So stop messing around on it with your flash thing. Now, if I just signal to Bradley, if we can, we're just still going on here. That would be great. Hello, Lewis. It is a bit bright, but if you come a bit closer, you might go away from. That's better, isn't it? That's all right. Is that okay? How was your day?
Okay.
Yeah. What did you learn? How does the car feel?
At the moment, just driving, just getting miles in the car, and yeah, I mean, at the moment, just driving as normal.
Okay, give us a sense for how these cars how different they are to drive. I know you've spoken a lot about this before, but it's the first time I've spoken to you since the winter, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the tires are a little bit better. They more durable. So I mean, you can do perhaps maybe 30 laps and you have a lot less wear on them, but they still overheat like any other tire. So you still have that kind of issue with the car. I mean, we lost obviously the rear lower element of the rear wing. We have we don't have the blown diffuser anymore, so that's a huge amount of downforce that we lose. So when we get on power, the rear is much weaker than what we experienced in the last couple of years. So you have a lot more wheel spin generally, and otherwise it's a Formula 1 car still. You know, you got a lot of power. When you have new tires, the power is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I bet. And what about the torque as well?
Yeah, I mean, in the past we'd use first or second gear through corners, as we're now using fourth, fifth.
Really? What are you using in hairpins?
Fourth, fifth.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good. And for the rest of the test, where would you say, just sum up where you are heading towards? We've got a couple of weeks before Bahrain. You feel good. You're in a good place. Team seem to be happy. Nico did almost 100 laps yesterday.
Yeah, Nico got 97 laps yesterday, which is great, and it's really just incredibly impressive to see the team. You know, with the first ones out on the first day. Obviously, I had the issues with the front wing, but we've fixed that, and we're working on improving that for the future. But to get, just by watching all the other teams who haven't been out hardly at all, for example, the Red Bull, you would imagine the Red Bulls would be doing easily as many laps as us with their track record, but obviously they've had some issues as well. So it just shows you how technical it is and how difficult it is for every team and how challenging it is. And to see us out there doing 97 laps, way above the rest, is a huge accomplishment from the team.
Just last one from me. I suppose it's too early to say, Red Bull are in trouble, isn't it? Because what happens to them here could easily happen to, so complex is everything, could happen to any team, I suppose, before we get to Australia.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is going to be a seriously challenging year for every team. Just with the reliability, with everything's different. The braking's different. We have this new braking system, which is brake by wire, which is at the moment not the best thing to use, but it's that makes it much trickier, and we're trying to fine-tune that. Then we have new dashboards on our steering wheels. We're trying to fine-tune those. You know, you got the turbo, you got the courage, you got all these new things. It's so complex, far beyond what we've had before. And as a driver, I mean, we have more multi-functions switches on our steering wheel than we've ever had before. So it's a big challenge.
Thank you very much, Lewis. We'll leave you to my colleagues from the other press. And actually, just underlining, there you go. You hear it from Lewis himself. How complex. You know, if you think it's everyone's just overestimating, you know, how complex these things are. You know, listen to a guy who's, you know, an ace in a Formula One car and knows which way is up as far as driving goes, and to do all of that and to control all of those things on the steering wheel and still drive 100% or 90% or 80%, whatever they have to do for the fuel, and then hit your apexes, do everything else, is, you know, going to be very tough. But it's fantastic for us, is it not? Brilliant for us watching on TV. Something that we're also going to see is that because, I mean, Lewis didn't mention it, but Mercedes had to change a gearbox in the middle of the day. That's why I get the feeling he was slightly annoyed that he didn't quite have as much running as Nico Rosberg did yesterday. That gearbox change takes, you know, 3 hours. An engine change at the moment takes 6 hours. 6 hours. That's 45 minutes if they did it quickly with a V8. So, you know, it just underlines, if you have a problem in free practice 1, you'll miss free practice 2. If you have a problem in free practice 3, you're going to miss qualifying. You're going to have to start the race from the back of the grid. It is that complicated in these cars. Absolutely astonishing. And the championship clearly will turn on this kind of thing, on little unreliability things cropping up. What else was I going to tell you about? Oh yes, the multifunction steering wheel display. That's a slightly new thing that we have here. You might remember on the steering wheel, the drivers had a sort of thin LED display at the top. Hello? That's been replaced if they want. They can still keep it if they want. McLaren Electronic Systems, who design that, but they can now have a much bigger display on the dashboard, LCD little display, which they can put anything on. They can put turbo, boost, and the driver can scroll through it. What they're finding really is the driver only wants to see one thing, and that's whether he's faster or slower than the lap before, the delta, what we know as the delta time. But they have changed it, so you will see different displays on the dashboard. Someone's just coming through. We've done enough. I hope we've covered everybody else. Jev, yes, we have. Oh, Sutil did 34 laps in the Sauber. Good progress from them, but they've still got the odd bit of problems. We've covered Red Bull. So we'll just leave you with an image of a Red Bull team trying to figure out where they go from here. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.